School of Management and Computer Science Department, Kristi Jayanti College, Bangalore, in association with All India Council for Technical Education, Delhi, welcoming all the esteemed participants, speakers from various colleges, faculty members, and Jayantians to this learning platform. It is my pleasure to introduce the speaker for the day, Dr. Yunus Mola, on the topic Employability and Creating Future Business Center, Kolkata. Sir is an MBA graduate and is a recognized Paul Harris individual who did his education at IIM Calcutta and Jadavpur University. He is a global corporate leader, Fortune 500 company analyst, business strategist, leadership coach, and change maker, foreign trade consultant, project management consultant, living legend award winner, and has membership with more than 200 international organizations around the world. He has received more than 200 awards and recognition from the corporate world, academic world, and social media for his unique contribution. With great joy and honor, we welcome you, Professor, and we request you to take over the session. Over to you, sir.
Good afternoon. Can you listen?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Hello.
Yes.
Good afternoon, everybody. First of all, my heartfelt thanks to Dr. Baba Nanakumar for inviting me for this seminar. So my topic is employability and building the future leader through management education. You know, management education is a very dynamic subject, and management education is changing daily. First of all, we have to understand what is management. Management is a process through which one individual or organization achieve its goal by proper utilization of the resources. So through management education, we can manage a lot of resources, but we have to understand why we will take the management education. As management education is a professional education, we have to take it very serious. It is not a common education like the BA, MA, so that after passing the common education, we can serve the people of the country in a common way. This management education is a professional qualification, and we have to learn very stringent way so that we can serve the country and the people of the country in a befitting manner.
Sir, we are unable to hear voice, sir.
Stands for volatile, U stands for uncertainties, C stands for cloud, and A stands for analytic. These leaders are facing tough situations to manage the global pandemic of coronavirus. So, until unless we design and create more and more competent business leaders through our management education, in future, we'll not able to get benefit from the management education. How we can design or craft our future business leader through management education in our business school. Now I'm saying a few thoughts with you. First of all, we have to design an international level curriculum or syllabus for our management education. Although Government of India and All India Council for Technical Education is updating our management education syllabus regularly, keeping the pace with international standards. Now, we have to include few things, keeping in mind with the international management schools, say Harvard Business School in US or Stanford Business School in US and other reputed international business school across the world. First of all, when we're designing our curriculum in India, earlier we used to design our course or management syllabus mostly on theoretical perspective. Practical perspective was say 20% or 30%. But nowadays, as the management science or management education has developed very rapidly, and we are interacting with diverse field of industry and challenging situation. So our syllabus should be designed so that our student can cope up with the new challenges which is coming day by day. Especially in our new management education, we have to include analytics, cloud computing, or AI-based learning system. Apart from this, we have also include the case-based learning system. We have seen in US, Harvard Business School especially, they use a lot of case studies in their MBA curriculum so that when the students are going through their management education program for the 2 years, they solve at least 300 to 400 real life, real industry based case studies to sharpen their decision making skills, to finding out the facts and to provide the right solutions for the right problem. But in our Indian business school, we try to practice at least 40 to 60 case studies in 2 year time to sharpen the decision making skills of the MBA student. So there is a difference between case study based learning in US and across the globe versus India. My suggestion, humble suggestion is we have to include case based learning. Another thing, we have to use the simulation or management lab. Lot of situations, say when students are studying after passing the graduation or engineering degree, they are entering in our management education. Maybe they have no real practical experience of industrial field, so that when there is some problem happens, they are not getting chances to go to the industry and implement their learned knowledge to solve their problem. So we have to create a lot of management labs and a lot of simulation studies to be done so that we can impart the right knowledge to the management students. Now, coming to my second point, selection of right candidate for the management educations. Nowadays, we only select the candidates through CAT, MAT, or personal interview. But maybe sometimes we are unable, apart from few reputed institutes, say business school ranking from 1 to 20, there are a lot of business schools, they take admission of very general students whose management ability or zeal for management is very less. And until unless we select the quality students through proper admission test or interest test, what will happen as the input of the or student quality is very medium or low, so the output of the student will be chances of getting medium or lower category. So we have to design a very stringent entrance system so that we can test the academic, apart from the academic knowledge, we can test the management quotient or EQ, etc. through the entrance test so that we can select the best of the best batch for the B schools. Third point, I'll make you, when you are taking the faculties in the business school, we keep mostly 80 to 90% faculty are from academic field. But in out of India, we have seen the combination of B school faculties, maybe 70% from academic field, 30% is from industrial field. So that when a student is going through the management course, as it is a practical course, it is a modern course, dynamic course, they can get the learnings or practical lessons from the industry leader. When the industry leader is visiting the campus, they are sharing their own life experiences. They are sharing their own industry problems and how they have solved, how they have owned that problem, how they have bring out the winning factor in that industry or in that company. So my third point is, when you select the total faculty, we should keep in mind there should be a combination of academic teachers, academic faculties, including with faculties from the industry who have a good experience, more than 15 years to 17 years experience, who can impart knowledge, who has a time, who can engage students in a better way. Number 4, when we teach our school in B school, we only evaluate the students in a semester system. Maybe after 6 months, they have to sit for an academic test, or maybe there is some project works. But in my suggestions, if we evaluate the students in a 3-month interval, it will be better. We have seen in the best of the best business school in the world, they have a quarterly evaluation system other than monthly tests and etc. In that quarterly evaluation system, the academic tests they take, and they give a lot of project work so that the student learn through the projects. So my suggestion is my evaluation process can be changed from 6-month interval to 3-month interval, so that in a time frame of 2 years, the student, we can judge the student say at least 8 times rather than 4 times. Fifth point, we have a project time period, maybe for 8 weeks to 12 weeks, depending on the different universities. We send the students to the different industrial organization to learn and implement their real learnings, theoretical learnings in the business operation. But what we have seen recently, maybe for the last 5-6 years, we as a B schools, we don't monitor the project work very fine way or very stringent way. We send the students to big institutes, big organizations under some business leader to guide him for a particular project topics. But we don't keep a very day-to-day touch what he is learning week-wise or month-wise in that organizations, and what are the new things he has applied from his theoretical learnings at our B school to the industry. What are the changes he has made during his 8 weeks to 12 weeks term in a big corporate offices. But we have seen it that students just go learn the basic things. They don't take the project very seriously and to learn a lot of new things from the industrial perspective. Even the industry leader, he has very less time to guide the student who has come from the B school. So when we send a student to the different industry, we have to do the proper mapping and matching so that our student can benefit through the project learning. And we have to keep record of the student's project learning in his biodata or in his competency mapping. Number 7, as we are planning to create more and more future business leaders, we have to develop the personality, which is a combination of different traits, maybe internal traits and external traits to some extent of his own self. Very often we groom students, we develop their personality through these outside traits, but internal traits, his competency, his tenacity, his problem finding solution attitudes, his resilience, we don't try to inculcate in our business schools. So my urgent advice is we have to engage our HR faculties so that they can find out proper time and proper mapping, competency mapping model other than the basic SWOT analysis. In our school days, B school days, we're very accustomed with, oh, do your SWOT analysis, tell your SWOT. But nowadays, it is better to develop the competency mapping. We should understand the different qualities of a student as they are with us for the last 2 years. We're getting enough time. Our HR faculty should engage time. Number 7, mentor, coaching, and shadowing. We do a lot of mentorship or coaching to pass their academic exams in the B school, but we very less do the right kind of coaching to solve the different business challenges what our local companies or country big companies is facing, or shadowing. In US, we have seen that a big business leader takes a 5 to 10 students, basically students. The students go and they observe each day their lifestyle, their communication skills, how he is taking the meeting. It's called shadow practice or shadowing. But I have rarely seen in India. If we inculcate or implement in our course module of shadowing process rather than normal coaching and mentoring, so that our student can learn from the best of the best leaders in the industry. They'll go to a specific industry and they'll under the shadowing process so that they can learn from the best and best successful leader. They can interact, they can question, they can judge what the leader is doing, in what situation, why he has done. They can ask clarification during his learning process of shadowing. I have not seen that much of B school is practicing shadowing here. Number 8. Nowadays, our students don't write much of management articles. Even they don't read a lot of B school, a lot of business journals, which is published from the across the world. Nowadays, in the age of internet, our students' accessibility to resources is very easy. They can access all the resource journals in the field of business or in the field of management through internet. There are a lot of resources. A lot of universities are posting their best of the best B journals, where a lot of expert management faculties, a lot of industry successful leaders have shared their views, written their personal experience, written their case studies. If we make our students a habit to read at least 5-6 journals in a month, and at least 10 to 12 articles, business articles or management education or his syllabus related articles, then his decision-making ability, his knowledge will be more and more competent. When he pursued the B school, when he entered in the real industry, after giving interview for the job interview, he'll apply his knowledge in a better way. Number 9 point, I'll also urge our B school faculties or management to inculcate research attitude among the students, at least few students, those who are meritorious, who want to come in academic field. We have seen after passing out from different big B schools, all the pass out students plunge into the jobs. They think, okay, doing job and earning money is the best of the best things. But we should not forget research and development is a very strong arena in the field of management, as is a newly developed subject. The management subject is come in the last only 100 and 110 years. It is not a science subject which is prevailing in the last 400, 500 years, or it's not a arts curriculum. So we are taking the management education for the last 100 and 120 years. So we have to inculcate research aptitude among at least 5 to 10% of total batch size of a B school, so that in future they can come out new management model to solve the different problems. So this is my few views I have shared with you. If you have some questions, what I have discussed, you can ask me, or you can write to me through mails and phones and WhatsApp. My all contact details is available with the college. And last of all, I must wish happy Holi to all of you. The Holi is knocking our door, so festival season. And thank you for your patient hearing. In future, we can meet physical and we can discuss a lot. We can do a 1 day, 2 day seminar, workshop to exchange our views personally. Thank you all. Thanks to the team.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
Yes, now any questions you can have?
Yes, I am ready to take 2-3 questions.
Yes. Faculty members and students now.
Yeah, you can put in the chat.
Yes, or either you can put in the chat, you can raise the question. Yes, I think.
Okay, then thank
Yes,
you all.
thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you. Thank you, sir. Over to Teresa.
Okay.
Thank you so much, sir, for sharing your insights with us today. Now I would like to hand over the session to Mr. Jibin Jose, Student Coordinator. Over to you, Jibin.
Thank you, Teresa. I just want to confirm if I'm audible.
Yes, yes.
Yes, you're audible. Yeah.
Okay. Education is better safeguard of liberty than a standing army. Edward Everett. A very good evening to the respected dignitaries joined us today on this virtual platform, faculty members, participants from various institutions, and my fellow Jayantians. On the second day of the conference, we are delighted to hear from Dr. Baba Gyanakumar, faculty, Christu Jayanti School of Management, who would speak on curriculum enrichment in national education policy, and Dr. Manvinder Singh Pahwa, Professor, Manipal University, Jaipur, would speak on NEP implementation in private institutions. Education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world. Nelson Mandela. The first speaker for the day will be Dr. Baba Gyanakumar. So started as an assistant professor in Adityanar College of Arts and Science in Toothukudi district in Tamil Nadu in the year 1994, followed by being the professor and head of the Department of International Business in PSG College of Arts and Science in Tamil Nadu. In 2005, he became professor and principal in Sri Krishna Arts and Science College, Tamil Nadu. Sir has received awards from IIM Bangalore and IIM Calcutta for Best Research Paper. Sir has been awarded Academic Excellence Awards from GISR Dubai in the year 2019. Sir has published 60 plus research articles, presented 150 plus papers in the various conferences. Dr. Baba Gyanakumar is trained by IIM Bangalore on leadership traits, former Senate member in Bharatiyar University, Coimbatore. Sir is presently working as Director for Consultancy and Corporate Training and Professor in Christu Jayanti College, Bangalore. Sir, we are indeed honored to hear from you today. I now request you to kindly take over the session.
Thank you, Jibin. And thank you, Professor Unas Mola, for your enlightenment speech. Thank you, sir. And I also thank the upcoming speaker, Dr. Manvinder Singh, also. I think he joined. So my presentation is about the curriculum enrichment. I will share my presentation. Once again.
Yes, sir, we can see.
You are able to see, madam?
Yes,
Okay. Okay.
Yes,
Thank you.
Baba, sir. Yes, Baba.
Thank you, sir. So, respected principal, father of Christu Jayanti College, the AICT members, deaneries, head of the department, Dr. M.K. Baby, Dr. Kumar of MCA department, my dear faculty members, the students, outside participants. First, my greetings from Christu Jayanti College, Bangalore. And today, my presentation is about how we are going to enrich the curriculum with the help of the new education policy. That is the background of today's presentation. And this presentation consists of 4 major headings. First, the concept of academic bank credit introduced by the new educational policy, followed by the new curriculum model proposed by the new education policy. Of course, it is not fully functional. It is in the papers. Based upon the pipeline reviews, we have taken the curriculum model. Then how the curriculum will be in offline mode, how the new education policy is going to link the online curriculum also. That is how we planned this presentation. So in this presentation, we are going to have such thing regarding the new education policy as well as the academic enrichment. Okay, let us start with the academic bank of credit. How we are creating the academic bank of credit under the new education policy. In case of academic bank of credit, This scheme has been introduced by the new education policy, and this is called as ABC, that is Academic Bank of Credit. Under that, this scheme aims to promote student centricity, also the learner friendly approaches, especially in the higher education system. By this scheme, the Academic Bank of Credit will be introduced and established by the University Grants Commission or AICTE or the new government schemes. That is, if AICTE and UGC has been merged together, what will be the new thing? And already University Grants Commission established this Academic Bank of Credit. They already circulated the guidelines regarding the Academic Bank of Credit. As per this scheme, which is going to be implemented from 2021 June, the faculty members as well as the institutions can register with the Academic Bank of Credits. The students who are all joining in any course, they can join the Academic Bank of Credit. Say, for example, if a student is studying first semester in one college, second semester in another college, it is feasible here. The student, if he passed one particular course, that course certificate is available in Academic Bank of Credit. In case of a BCom student, if he passed the course in, say, for example, accounting, the accounting paper credit will be available and the course grade sheet will be available in the Academic Bank of Credit. Whatever may be the course, it will be available. If a student completed the 28 courses as required for a particular degree, either BSc Computer Science or MCA or MSc Computer Science degree, he can redeem. And he can redeem and get the degree called MCA or MSc Computer Science or MBA. That is made possible under this Academic Bank of Credit. So the advantage of the Academic Bank of Credit is feasibility. Any student from anywhere can register any course in any colleges. It is called as institutions. Only thing, the student once joined in any course, he has to be joined in Academic Bank of Credit. If he passed any course from any institution, the credit will be available in the Academic Bank. When he completes the last course in one of the institute, from that institute, he is having the right to get the degree. That is called redemption of the credit. Once he completes the degree, it means that minimum requirement, if he completed with minimum credits, he can redeem all the certificate from the Academic Bank of Credit and he is eligible for a degree. That is how the University Grants Commission created the Academic Bank of Credit. Each and every student should have the academic account. So from 2021, the institutions, all the academic institutions can register under the Academic Bank of Credit. Through the institutions, the students can register in the Academic Bank of Credit. That is the highlight of the new education policy. It made it as flexible. And student is having the right to study the course from different institutions. That is the second highest feasibility introduced by the new education policy. That is the formal system. Previously, if a student failed in one course, he has to wait for at least one semester. Now it is not like that. he can continue in some other institution, or he can continue in the same institution. The credit earned by him, the course passed by him is available in the Academic Bank of Credit. That is the advantage of this Academic Bank of Credit. And it is as per the university guidelines. It is going to be rolled out from the 2021 to 2022 academic year. I think participants kindly mute. There are some disturbance there. Participants kindly mute so that yes. Whether I am audible, sir, now?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So this Academic Bank of Credit is going to be coming from the year 2021 academic year itself. Very important point. The credit earned by the students will be called as the deposits. Like our banking scheme, whatever the credit earned by the student will be deposited in this bank. That is the plus point. And once a student completed his maximum subjects with minimum credits, he can redeem or he can withdraw the credits by getting the degree. Simple concept. And this ABC has been already established. For this purpose, the government of India already created NEET. NEET is not for medical entrance examination. This is the National Educational Alliance for Technology. All the credits will be available in the NEET, that is National Educational Alliance for Technology. So as per the scheme, throughout India, if a student completed the course certificate along with his grade is available. For this purpose, they created a very good database under the NEET scheme. The government already invested and NEET has been already established under the ABC. So it aims to use artificial intelligence and it is a customized one. Once the students deposited his certificate, there is a feedback form. As per the guidelines, it is given. The other students can also go through the feedbacks and feed forwards about the course. If they need, they can join. That is how NEET is going to be established and already rolled out in phased out manner. Now it is ABC, and from April 1st onwards, the NEET is going to be inaugurated. For this purpose, another scheme has been introduced. How we can measure the performance of the students as well as the faculty also, plus the institutions. For this purpose, the new education policy clearly mentioned the concept of PARAC. That is performance, assessment review, and analysis of knowledge for holistic development. This has been introduced by the new education policy. Under this scheme, the government itself can review the performance of the students, plus the performance of the faculty, performance of the institution also. So it is a centralized platform hereafter. So as already some of the schemes has been established, now as a pilot study, 2 institutions has been mingled with the PARAC scheme, and already government started a pilot review how it is going on. So from 2021 academic year onwards, the first stage of PARAC is going to be implemented. And first phase, they are expecting around 50 institutions to join. And from that institutions, they are going to undertake this pilot study, the performance assessment review, and analysis of the students of the courses will also be included. A special team has been established for this purpose. This is also coming under the NEET scheme, the government scheme, and through the online media, all are going to be evaluated. The aim is how we can impart a new type of education system to the students. Next, under the ABC, there are two other schemes are joining together. One is called STARS, another is called CERC, CERC. The STARS represent the strengthening teaching, learning, and results for states. How we can improve the teaching and learning system. Of course, the career-oriented program. How we can give different type of input to the students, especially for creating the entrepreneurship skills through internship, apprenticeship. All these things is going to be managed by the STARS project. Under this project, the students can apply for internship. If he completed the internship, he can retain that credit in the academic bank of credit. Say, for example, MCA student, if he completes internship, for enabling the internship, he can go through the STARS. Even now, the AICT is doing the internship. All these internships are now centralized with the STARS scheme. So students can apply any organization which has been recognized by the STARS program so that they can easily get the internship. I think, you know, yesterday onwards, the AICT signed around 6 agreements with ONGC for having the internship program. So under this scheme, not only the technical education, but also the arts and science education is going to be benefited. The students, if they wish to do the internship, they can apply through the STARS program. They can get the benefit of the industries. So the stakeholders of the STARS, not only educational institutions, but also the industry bodies. All the industries can join with the STARS program, offer internship. In case of engineering graduates, apprenticeship has been given, and this program is going to be managed by that one. All these are all coming under the holistic approach of the Ministry of Education. The next scheme is contingency emergency response component. It is called the CERC. Under this component, in case of any emergency, recently we faced the problem of COVID. Some of the colleges have been partially coming under the lockdown. In such case, what we have to do, or if a student is unable to complete the degree on time, if a student is facing sudden issues, sudden problems, how to resolve that one. For that purpose, the government introduced the CERC, contingency emergency response component. This force will consider the abnormal situation, or if a student come across with any problem. Say, for example, students minimum he has to gain 120 credits, but a student gain 118 credits. Some of the institutes may say that this course is equivalent to 6 credits or 10 credits. Some disputes may come because it is too much flexible. In such case, all these disputes rehearsal and dispute mechanism will be governed and controlled by the contingency emergency response component team. This task force has already established under the government, that is the Ministry of Education, and this task force is going to manage the students' problems. Even the faculty issue, all these things will be governed. This is the model of the entire new education policy on the ABC, that is Academic Bank of Credit. These are all the main component. So first stage by 2021, they are going to establish, already ABC has been introduced, UGC already sent the circular, the STARS program already introduced, PARAG scheme has been introduced, CRC has been already introduced, and all are going to be integrated from April 1, 2021. We had to wait and see. And the sample institutions have been identified to first time how we can enter into the new education policy. So based upon that, what will be the curriculum by future? And so far, the guidelines has not been announced openly, but for the pilot institutions, as I already mentioned, as per the present situation, 5 institutions have been already identified out of 50. So among these 5 institutions, they given a rough guidelines how we can create the curriculum, which should be model for the new education policy under flexible credit system of Academic Bank of Credit. That is the core thing. So based upon that, my presentation is about the curriculum enrichment based upon this ABC. Okay, the first curriculum model has been introduced by the UGC for the undergraduate courses as well as PG courses. They already introduced, especially for the engineering. They used to call it as learning outcomes-based curriculum framework. The concept has been introduced by the University Grants Commission. So first time, the 5 institutions are going to take over that one and have a pilot study by 2021. Same thing, I hope if it continues good, all the institution is going to be follow this thing, because by 2030, all the institutions will have the same ABC, that is Academic Bank of Credit. The curriculum, everything concerned institutions can manage. All the institutions are considered as an autonomous colleges, and the institutions can design their own curriculum, and it is somewhat equivalent to very, very flexible. A student, if thinks that marketing is good in one area, one institution, he can study. In one institution, he identified that R is good, R program is good, he can study R programming from that one. Even he can select the institution, he can select the course, he can select the faculty also. Such type of flexibility. Of course, the faculty selection may be rolled out only from 2025. Before that, they are going to build all the basic things. The curriculum development, as per the new education policy, the pipeline papers, which is going to be given, circulated among these 5 institutions, clearly mentioned that it should be based upon the interest of learners and the society. So the PARAG scheme, the task force, which is maintaining the entire curriculum design, the knowledge coefficient, the quality standards, they will go through that one. Whatever may be the curriculum we are designing, it is coming under the PARAG scheme, and they will monitor how we have to create, and this curriculum for each and every course will be monitored by them. That is how they designed. So under this scheme, if you've gone through that one, There are different stages. Of course, what we are following present, there is no absolute major changes, but at the end, it will be entirely different. At the end, a state you have to in terms of behavioral outcomes. Whatever we are doing, we have to mention in terms of the behavioral part. The outcome should be based upon the behavior of the concerned institution or concerned faculty. When you are designing the curriculum should end with the behavioral outcome. At present, we are talking about the outcome-based education, but in case of the new education policy, they are expecting that the outcome should be in the method of behavior. What are all the behavioral changes each and every curriculum should have? It is going to be monitored by the PARAC scheme. So that is the core thing. That is why you can see remaining things, what we are doing already. At the end, we should be very clear that the syllabus should have the behavioral outcome. Next thing, they are insisting that the student should have the learning experience, not teaching experience. Whatever the curriculum should have, they fix the standards of the learning experience. That is what we are doing. In case of Krishna Jayanti College, we are having the activity-based learning, experiential learning, all these things. So all the curriculum, now they are going to insist clearly what is the learning experience we are giving. It is simply the activity-based learning. And the new curriculum is planned by the one model called GN model of curriculum designing. As per the NEP, it is called Gladstone naturalistic model. The curriculum is indirectly, it is coming under the STEM scheme of the engineering science. However, since arts and science colleges are also there, they created the GN model of curriculum. It is nothing but a simple thing. It shows that how we can build the learning scenarios. Only thing, if you've gone through the last component of the GN model, you can see that one. Developing the learning scenario. It is important. The standard guidelines are going to be given. We have to create learning scenarios. The students must learn with the scenario. Maybe it is equivalent to the case studies. In case of PG level, MBA, MCA level, we are giving the case studies. It is also coming under the learning scenario, but now it is going to be extended to the undergraduate program also. That's what the new education policy is giving the guidelines for the new model of curriculum, Gladstone naturalistic model. It is indirectly based upon the revised outcome-based education, what we call it as behavioral outcome. And previously, in case of engineering colleges, we used to call as STEM learn of learning. Same thing is redesigned under this model. And under this model, we have to establish the learning scenario. The students have to study with the help of learning scenario. What we are doing in the case of PG is simply is going to be extended for undergraduate program also. Maybe the case studies or anything. Just we are going to see the, as an example, what will be the curriculum design in future. In the first stage of implementation, I have given a sample thing, but it is not an exhaustive one. It is coming under the pilot study. We have to wait and see clearly. By 2021, once the pilot institutions made it as successful, then other institutions have to follow that one. Simple thing. Any course will have some requirements. First is called course design. Say for example, what is the program is about? Is it MCA, MBA or BCA, BSc Computer Science, like that. Then what is the title? Title should be approved by the PARAG scheme, the task force introduced by the NEP. Then the credit is very important. The credit should be transferred to the academic bank of credit. The weeks, how many weeks? Now we have to prepare the lesson plans. What language? As usual, the PLO mapping, program learning outcomes. Only thing here, the outcomes are going to be behavioral changes. That is the major. Then which institution? Any institution can give. Each and every institution will be given the code number from the academic bank of credit, and the academic bank of credit reference number will be given. Who is the course coordinator? And this course coordinator, whether he is coming under the Vidwan ID. You know, all the faculty members throughout India are now available in Vidwan. Ministry of Education already created the database. So now from 2021, for the first 50 institutions going to be ruled with the NEP, the Vidwan ID is must. Already the government sent the circular to create the database. I hope all the faculty members are there. Students can also see that one, which faculty is having more credits, more points, or those things. So that when a student decided to select particular faculty, he can go through the Vidwan and find out which faculty he can select. Then the course requirements, as usual, this is same thing. The course learning outcomes. Only thing, the behavioral outcome is essential. Then the prerequisite for credit earning, that is must. A student can't study the R programming without knowing the basic. That is why in case of flexible credit system, the course coordinator should fix the prerequisite. In case of accounting, a student can't study the corporate accounting without studying the fundamental accounting. In case of programming, also same thing. In case of English, also same thing. So for each and every course, they are fixing the course requirements. Then of course the syllabus. When they are designing the syllabus, as I already mentioned, it is in the GN model. So for each and everything, what will be the scenario? It should be included. That is learning experience. Learning experience means it may be a case study or it may be the activities. All are included along with the course content. Then very important thing, the resources. Because as per the new education policy, it is very clear that all the syllabus should created purely based upon the research. The research is very important thing. That is why they mentioned that when you are creating the syllabus, the research part should be mentioned. Very important thing. The faculty can design a course, provided what are all the basics of research he conducted on that course. That is made mandatory. So hereafter, whether the student is studying or the faculty is going to design, a research should be done in this course before designing that one. It is also governed by the PARAG scheme. Finally, the learning system, where it is available. Even though it is available in the particular college or institutions, we need for the reference to connect with the academic bank of credit, whether we can link with any one of these things. Here I have mentioned the learning management system of Kristu Jayanti College. If institution is having online platform, all the particulars, details will be available in that one. At the end, it should be integrated with academic bank of credit. And all the materials, in case of Kristu Jayanti College, we already made it as online libraries. So hereafter, if a student is joining a course in Kristu Jayanti College, till completion of this course, he can use the online library of Kristu Jayanti College. That is how they created that one. Finally, they have to create the evaluation system. The coordinator who is teaching, they have to create the evaluation system. That is important. Even it may go for the open book system or any activity. That is how they designed. When they are going for evaluation, how you are going to evaluate, it is also to be mentioned. Either they can follow Bloom's taxonomy or any rubrics. The government is not particular, but only thing, whatever the evaluation system we are going to fix, it is going to be managed under the PARAG scheme. The online course is also to be integrated with the entire SWAYAM platform through the ABC. Here the example. You know about the Coursera. Whatever the Coursera, same model they are going to create. That is why I given the example. It is going to be linked with the National Education Alliance for Technology, not the Coursera. If you want to have an online platform for teaching, directly the faculty can link with the NEET. Likewise, when you design the online course, you have to get the task force approval from the PARAG. Then, when you are fixing what will be the flexibility among that one, how a student will complete that one, you have to get the approval from the CRC. Of course, all are coming under the single window system. CRC should approve that one. Then the faculty ratings already created. In the same Coursera, we are having the faculty rating. Same thing, it is going to be linked with the one. The new education policy. And the students' feedback is coming under the stars also. They can share their experience. It is coming along with the stars program. Then the NEET, the reviews of the students who completed the course is also going to take part with the feedback system. And finally, if a student passed, the credit will be available with the Academic Bank of Credit. That is how the new education policy plan to have the curriculum design. As a concluding, in future, we have to go for the career-oriented outcomes. The curriculum should be very flexible. The student engagement process should be needed. Faculty rating is going to come. Outcomes to be measured in behavioral methods. And we are going to have the teaching and learning standards also. That is my presentation. Thank you. The credit goes to School of Management and Computer Science, Department of Kristu Jayanti College. Thank you. Now over to you.
Thank you, sir, for your insightful information on curriculum enrichment in national education policy. Now the floor is open for questions. The participants can put in their questions in the chat box. Either can unmute them and raise the questions.
Sir, good evening. I'm Dr. Suma from SJCRT, Department of MBA.
Yes, madam.
Sir, it was a very nice and informative session. Sir,
madam, your
can
voice
you
is
just
breaking.
tell some insights about the curriculum? Sir,
Madam, your
curriculum
voice
design.
is breaking.
Sir, 1 minute. Sir, do we have any extra specific curriculum for MBA, sir?
Additional curriculum. Yes, whatever you are having, it should be linked with the ABC. You can have.
Okay, sir.
It is not. It is very flexible. Whatever the course you can have your own additional courses. You can fix your own credits for that one. Only thing you have to be clear with the credits, and these credits should be available with the Academic Bank of Credit.
Okay, sir. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I think the next guest is ready. Welcome, Manvinder Singh sir. Oh,
Sir, thank you, sir. Thanks for providing me this opportunity. Babaji, namaskar.
Namaskaram,
Yeah,
sir.
Sir,
sir.
one question I
yeah.
also,
Oh. Yes, sir.
yeah,
Yes,
outcome
sir.
learning.
Hearty
And
welcome to Jayanti College and this virtual platform.
Mm,
Yeah, we look forward to hear from you.
mm.
Sir, can Jibin introduce, sir?
Yes. Any
Babaji,
other questions, sir? Any other? If
yeah.
not, we can move on to the next.
Babaji, one question from my side, sir.
Okay, Ji.
Sir, I wanted to ask that are we ready for this OBE? Because when I just closely look to certain colleges, this even OBE system has not been properly implemented. Even the faculties do not know how to design the objectives of the courses. Means course outcomes are yet to be trained. So I think at the Pan India level itself, this type of training is much required for the faculty members to design their outcomes according to their courses, so that the outcomes should lead to either good higher education or the placements. So, do you think, sir, do we need to have something more on this, or is it sufficient, sir?
Yes, sir, definitely. That is why now Ministry of Education is planning to orient almost all the faculty regarding the outcome-based education. And now AICTE is clearly mentioning that for the professional courses, the outcome should be behavioral based. They are already started orientation. This is also one of the program from the AICTE regarding that one also.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Definitely, this is the new upcoming time. We have to change. There is no other way. So definitely, I expect that quickly all the institution will move towards the OBE.
Yeah.
This is the order of the day now.
Because we have to connect it with various professional things too, and the outcome has to be at the international level.
Yes.
Yeah. So I will be discussing more about how it can be implemented at the level of the higher education
Yes.
institution, and that too at the private level too, sir. Yeah. Thank you. Thanks for your response, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And thank you, participants, for your questions. When you educate one person, you can change a life. When you educate many, you can change the world. Shai Reshef, the final speaker for the National Conference on Implementation on National Education Policy, is Dr. Manvinder Singh Pava. Sir completed his schooling from Alok Senior Secondary School, Udaipur, later completed his BCom in Accounting and Finance and MCom in Banking, Corporate Finance and Securities Law from Mohanlal Sukhadia University. He also completed his Bachelor's of Law LLB in 2007 from Mohanlal Sukhadia University. Sir received his Doctor of Philosophy PhD in the year 2009. He also completed his LLM MBA in Corporate Laws and Finance. He has also completed Company Secretary course recognized by Institute of Company Secretaries of India in the year 2011. Sir started as an associate professor in Pacific Institute of Management, Udaipur, followed by associate professor in Centurion Institute of Management, Jaipur. He was the head of the department and professor in University of Petroleum and Energy Studies. Later in 2013, joined as a professor in finance in JK Business School, Haryana. Dr. Manvinder Singh was a gold medalist in Mohanlal Sukhadia University for LLM MBA program in the year 2013 and also have received Award of Excellence from the Institute of Company Secretaries of India. He is presently working as a professor in Manipal University, Jaipur. Sir, it's an honor to have you in our midst today. I now request you to kindly take over the session.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. So, my session, as you have already told, it will be on the implications and implementation of this NEP, that is a new National Education Policy 2020. So the new education policy, as we know that this is why it is called as a new education policy as such, is that because it has recently been implemented, and you can say it is there with us now from 2020 and onwards. And before that, if we see the education policies in India, there has been three education policies. In 1968, it came up as a first education policy, and in 1986, it again came up. And further, in 1992, there was some amendment being done in the education policy of 1986, and finally in 2020, we are having our education policy, and it is being termed as a new education policy as such. And even the public was also, the entire country, people were asked to just give the suggestions, and as per Ministry of HRD, about 1.25 lakhs of suggestions were obtained, and to the extent it were to be implemented, it were implemented also in the making of the policy as such. So if we see the objectives, if we keenly observe that why this education policy was framed, so we can say it was to form an equitable and vibrant knowledge society by developing a sense of respect towards fundamental rights, duties, and constitutional values, which leads to sustainable development and giving a global well-being, and it ensures the skill, values, and disposition that supports the responsible commitment to the human rights. So this was the complete objective. If we see the holistic objective of the new education policy, it is actually to imbibe the skills and the values, and disposition actually is towards the responsible commitment. Responsible commitment means towards the society from the point of view of ethics, moral, and a commitment towards execution of the two profession in which the individual will be in. So this is what it is. And if we see it from the point of view of school education transformation, we already know that this is a 5+3+3+4 scheme, which actually tries to ensure that 100% gross enrollment ratio from the preschool to secondary level by 2030 is the target. Actually, GER is to determine the number of students enrolled in the educational institutions at the various level. Suppose, for example, 1,000 students are eligible at the time, and how many of them have enrolled? Suppose 90% have started going to school, so GER will be 90%. So it is actually a statistical measure which is used in the education sector as per and as per the survey of higher education, All India Survey of Higher Education, AISHE, 2018-19, because this is the recent data what we have. The total enrollment in the higher education has been estimated to be 37.4 million, with 19.2 million of males and 18.2 million of females. So this is what, and if we see it from this point of view of the gender equality, India is, it can be appreciated that India is at least achieving, not exactly, but it is approaching towards the equal participation of both. So here female actually constitute 48.6% of the total enrollment, and the gross enrollment ratio in the higher education in which India is 26.3%, which is calculated for 18 to 23 years of age group. So this survey is actually based on the actual responses which have been taken. So there are 993 universities and 39,931 colleges and 10,725 standalone institutions listed on AISHE web portal. And out of them, 962 universities, 38,179 colleges, and 9,190 standalone institutions have actually responded. So this actually covers a substantial, you can say, the population of the country as such, and has given the such type of ratios. So so this particular target of has to be 100% as per the scheme means. At this particular scheme of the new education policy, they are targeting at up to 100% of gross enrollment ratio in the preschool to secondary levels, and further this gross enrollment ratio from schools to college level, or you can say secondary to the higher education institution, is to it is to be ensured up to 50%, which is still a dream, because we have at least at present 23.6% of higher education gross enrollment ratio at present. So there is a, because here if you see, there was a system of 10+2 wherein the lower education, that is from prior to first, was not included. So these are now proposed to be included through Anganwadi systems. So Anganwadi systems presently, because I'm from Rajasthan also, so here it is prevailing, but it is the central is trying to get it done at the entire country level, so that the holistic development of the student can start from the basics. So basic, actually you can say that the rooted things which are there, the student will start studying it from the nursery, KG and prep, and then afterwards the first class. So previously what happened, it used to cover from first to 10th, that is the 10 years, which is shown in the black over here, and you can say in this portion. Right now here particularly, which is there now, this portion which was left out has been included as a 3 years portion as such. And because this will give the students a grounded approach, and definitely they will be it will result in a good you can say foundation towards the morals and the attitudes and towards the culture of the country. Further, the integrated flexible school curriculum is there. The choice of subjects, which now at present is from after 10th, it will start from 9th, and there will be, and the choice based credit system which is prevailing in the university will start from the school level itself. So students can take the subject of their own choice and their own interest, and can progress in that according to their own passion, their profession. Further, after 12th, there will be NTA, you can say National Testing Agency will be conducting the test at pan India level, and accordingly the students will be selected. So each and every test for each and every domain will stop. So there will be the scheme of this is that there will be an aptitude test which will be common for everyone, and then afterward there will be domain specific things which a student has to qualify, and the merit list will be prepared accordingly in order to take the admissions in the higher education systems. Further, if we see the institutional restructuring and consolidation of the things, particularly at the higher education, there are certain schemes which are there with the government. So it actually purports to have a transformation of the higher education into a large multidisciplinary universities. So the universities which are existing, or the institutions of importance which are there, like IITs and IIMs, they have already started including humanities and culture and other type of other subjects in their the faculties of those in their curriculum itself, and they have launched this choice based credit system also. So this is what is the you can say the vision of our you can say the leaders, that the large multidisciplinary universities will provide a large variety of you can say choices to the students, who can take the subjects on their own basis, and they can take the things across the disciplines and the fields. And further, these universities have to evolve either as a research oriented universities or teaching oriented universities. So most of the research oriented universities will be subject to get grants from the central government for doing the researches, because they will be research intensive or research based universities. Teaching based university, on the other hand, will be having more emphasis on teaching, and there will be autonomous degree granting colleges also, which will be there as a part of this system. So RUs, or you can say the research oriented universities, they have a large focus on research, and TUs will be having a more emphasis on teaching rather than research, and would also conduct research, but research will be a secondary part of it. Or you can say, particularly at present in our university system, in the private universities, what we have is that research and teaching both are is to be done, and these type of institutions which will be there as a TUs or RUs will be having a choice either to, because at present, if we see as a faculty members, we face a lot of pressure along with doing research and the quality teaching, because both there is a trade-off being seen in both the ways. Either if you do a quality research, to some extent the teaching is traded off. So in order to establish a balance, whether you want to, what you want to do is accordingly, and the faculty members will be having a choice to join. If a person is good at research, they can join to the universities which are research oriented. A person who is good in interacting with the students will definitely be able to go in such. And in this way, the students will also be getting a proper, you can say, justification. The faculty will be able to justify the students at that time. So ACs, which are large multidisciplinary institutions of higher learning, they will be primarily focusing on the undergraduate teaching. So this, what you call is your affiliated colleges. So affiliated colleges will be affiliated to the university. They will still be they will keep on going, because large number of you can say students have to be addressed, and large number of students have to be taught. So not only the universities, but affiliated college will be of immense use. So they will, but soon there is a system of they will be phased. They will get phased out after in 15 years. So that, because new universities are being promoted, and even the government has also opened the gates for the foreign institutions also to establish their learning centers in India to provide and to compete with the degrees. So to some extent it has been criticized also, but at the same time it will provide a tough competition for the existing universities of the country to be there. And at the same time, we all faculty members, those who are there, we will also be getting those who are good in their own things. They will be having a good market to showcase themselves and get into the other universities also wherever they would be required. So by 2035, all the colleges which are currently affiliated to the university, they shall secure accreditation and become autonomous degree granting colleges or universities, as the case may be, they grow as such. Further, it actually emphasizes on the holistic development of the individual. So the dream is to come up with a well-grounded individual, and with a capacity across all the fields of arts, humanities, languages, science, culture, profession, technical, vocation, right? So all the undergraduate program have to become a multidisciplinary program, which normally has been started at because this what you call is choice-based credit system is one of the criteria of getting good grades by NAC also these days. And even the engineering schools such as IITs, they have started moving towards the holistic education, and arts and humanities I have already told that is a part of it. Now, what happens regarding the imaginative and flexible curriculum structure will be there. Now, with this holistic education, the quality of the institutions have to be enhanced. And if we see, the UGC has taken a step in order to change its criteria of accrediting the institutions through its NAC. So recently, in 2017, they have launched one new program, which is a window-based program, particularly, in which more emphasis is on you can say the actual activities being conducted and reporting is being done, and less emphasis is on the visit of the NAC team. So if we see, the quality of education has started becoming good. So in through this new scheme, this is the data which I'm sharing with all of you, is that at present, till date, A++ institutions, or I think this data is a little bit older, A++ institution, 3 universities and 3 colleges have been accredited, A+ also 3, and then 12 colleges, and this data has is there. Now if we see this graph, a few institutions only are there which are A+ and A accredited. Most of the institutions do not fit in the criteria. So the need of the time is to enhance the level of the education standard and the quality of the education also, in order to meet the dreams of this new education policy by the higher education institution. As just now told by Babaji also, that there will be the undergraduate degree courses are from 3 to 4 years, which will be having a multiple exit option. You will be provided a diploma, advanced diploma, degree, or degree with a, you can say, research, which will be helpful for you if you want to proceed further with your what you call is your masters. That can also be done. One most important thing which has come up is this ABC. ABC is Academic Bank of Credit, where whatsoever you have earned. So bank is something where we deposit our earnings. So here, whenever we will be earning any credit in the education, we can deposit that in the bank, and also can add up those deposits by earning more and more credits in the near future. So the main important thing over here is that a person who has suppose given a first year exam of his degree, and then afterwards there is a gap of 3 4 years, then again he wants to continue with the second year, he can do that. So in the present system, this degree actually gets lapsed after a certain period of time if you do not appear. But this particular Academic Bank of Credit will actually provide the facility to the student to deposit his credit, or to get his credit in this credit bank, and whenever he wants to continue with the education further, he can do it in the near future. So this is again a very good thing, which is there, which was not there previously in the policy, and it has come up. Now the higher education institution, they are having a flexibility to design the master's program. They still have the flexibility, but now that the flexibility has been totally announced that it has to be like that. So 2 year program in the second year are devoted entirely to the research for the students for the 3 year bachelor's degree. So if it is 4 years bachelor's degree, so 3 year you will get a degree, but without a research. So if you complete 4 years degree, you have a bachelor's degree with research, and then afterwards you can complete 1 year master program and get eligibility as a master. But if you want to pursue your PhD, then 1 more year masters plus your masters with the research will be eligible, make you eligible for doing your PhD afterwards. And this MPhil program has been dropped off because additional 1 year master degree along with the 1 year 1 year in the bachelor's plus 2 years in the master's, it is itself making it equivalent to the old system also. Another important thing is that in other countries, other developed countries, you can say, the graduation is of 4 years. Now, whenever a person from India has to go abroad, he has to take either 1 year course then in order to make himself equivalent to pursue the masters abroad. So this will not be there now, because our degrees now will be of 4 years, and our student, those who want to pursue their masters afterwards, can directly go and do the thing. So this is one of the very good thing which has happened. So further, if we see, it will provide an optimal learning environment, and the student support also is there, because creativity will be a part which was previously not there. Now the student who wants to go for research, or those students who want to go for maybe their own businesses, or a person who is having a love, for example, for a photography, for nature, can choose their own subjects which they actually love to do. There was a movie in between, a movie name was Three Idiots. I think you all have seen it. So that was something that make your passion your profession. So that flexibility is now there with this new education policy, which will enable us to open the horizons, particularly to do our own things in our own ways. So that will be one of the part of it. And the assessment again is one of the most important thing, which just now Babaji was also talking about, that how the assessment has to happen. What will be the criteria of the assessment? What will be the learning outcomes which are to be assessed in a way they have to be? So these all things require a rigorous training by the existing faculty members of the various faculties across the country, that even we are, to some extent, we are not aware of that what is going to happen, that how we are going to assess our outcomes, and what should be the outcomes, and how should we teach exactly. If we do not know our outcomes, we cannot teach properly. So that is again one of the criteria which has to be there. One more important thing regarding the online and distance education, this is again one of the good step which actually will be provided to the institutions, higher institutions of quality. So those institutions, those higher institutions which are of good quality, at least at present, suppose the quality thing is being assessed by the NAC. So those institutions which are A++ or A+ accredited, like our Manipal University Jaipur has recently got A+ accreditation, and it is amongst those universities, few universities of the country which has got the affiliation. So that is, so these institutions have been provided liberty to just, you can say, go for online education. Now those institutions which are having this thing will definitely, the private institutions, this can be one of the way of attracting good students and providing the quality education also. Further, the high performing Indian universities will be encouraged to open up their campuses abroad also, and from abroad also, there has been tie up, I think, of 200 more universities from all around the world will be establishing their centers in the country. So this competition will enhance the quality of the education in the country itself, and will enable the institutions and the faculty to compete at a good level and to enhance themselves to along with the, so that the students can also get enhanced. Further, for the scholarship, there will be a national scholarship portal, and which will provide the financial assistance to the students, those who want to avail it. And for sure, there will be some criteria, and the merit cum means will be one of the things which will be there. And private higher education institution will offer the scholarship ranging from 100% to 25% for at least half of their students. This is one of the things. To largest extent, it doesn't seem feasible also, but this is one. Our Manipal University Jaipur is already providing 2 crores, more than 2 crores of funds for the fees, you can say the scholarships for the students, those who are studying over here, and again on the merit means basis. Further, efficient faculty requirement will be one of the most important thing which has to be there, because again the faculty at all the fronts have to be trained. Now, one most important thing over here is that this new education policy has increased the duration of doing B.Ed. Now, B.Ed is essential for school education, but at the same time for college education there is no formal system of getting a training. Here itself, NET is one of the tests, national eligibility test for lecturership. But most of the students, those who are clearing this national eligibility test for lecturership, they are sometimes unable to stand in front of class and explain what they actually know. They may be good at research, but at the same time, when we are seeing the orientation of our entire new education policy to the extent that we have to develop at that level, so there has to be some program by the government itself in order to train or teach the faculty existing in the institution before they enter the this higher education stream. So there has to be some course, and it has been felt at various levels and various forums also that it should be there. And further, the student teacher ratio has to be, it has to be enhanced, you can say it has to be decreased, and it will now range from, previously it was 1:30, now it will be from 1:10 to 1:20. So more teachers will be required, and more efficient teachers requirement will be there. So there is a lot of scope of teaching, and teaching at the means good teachers will be required in order to be in the higher education with this new education policy. Now, if we see the equity and inclusions in the higher education, the socio-economic disadvantaged groups, they are also provided with the opportunities to just go to come up with their higher education too. Further, if we add this teachers education, I have already discussed, and vocational education is also one of the part of it, which is Ministry of Education itself has gone with this committee of National Committee for the integration of vocational education, and they are giving their recommendations on it. And further, the professional education also, because uh, uh, regarding there will be establishment of HICI in place of UGC. So Higher Education Commission of India, HICI, will be replacing the UGC, and I will be discussing this in the following slides. What will be the term of HICI and how it will come up with its things, and to what extent it will be able to replace the UGC as such. So yeah, regarding effective governance and the leadership, this is the one of the most important thing which government has to think or rethink again. So it has proposed that through those people, those who are having over 15 years of good experience, and they can aim to be at the board of governance level, and the leadership position, including the head of the institution, must be offered to a person who is having a very high academic qualification, and not only academic qualification but demonstrated administrative and leadership capabilities. Now here there is a question. The thing is that here also they will be creating an eminent expert committee, and that committee will be giving its recommendation for the constitution of the board of governance of the universities. Now here one thing is very important. See, in every institution, every company, every country, the culture follows from top to bottom. So is the policy of the government of appointing the vice chancellor of the university, which is presently totally political, is correct or not, is a big question. Now here, those people, those who are having a very good academic administration knowledge and experience, and those who are good at research also, those who are good at teaching pedagogy also, must be given a chance to represent and to be the head of the institutions for the higher education, because they will be the only people who will be able to establish a correct culture for development of not only the students but also the faculty and the entire country too. So this is one of the important things. So with this forum, I would like to suggest the government that if they can rule out the old provisioning of giving the appointments of the uh, vice chancellors by their own cadre, by their own things, means that is totally, I consider it completely a biased system, that where this type of appointments are to be given. If really we want to come up with this, the crux of this particular national new education policy, then such appointments have to be checked once again. Anyways, the promotion of Indian arts, language, and culture has been, it is a part of it. So higher education institutions, particularly those who are in the cities, those who are existing, they have to promote the local languages. But the language has again been concerned. I will not talk more on that. So use of technology and integration. Again, there is a National Education Alliance for Technology NEET. It will be created in order to provide a platform for the technology and enhance the learning and assessment. Because learning assessment itself becomes easier when you do it with the use of the technology, and it is more accurate rather than the traditional forms of. So there is a body which is being created, and it will create a platform for the same. And again, now I was talking about the HICI and the UGC. So Higher Education Commission of India, and will be established, and it will be repealing this UGC by a repealing act will be passed by the government in order to repeal the UGC, and will be taken over by HICI. So if we talk about the financial powers, UGC presently provides the grants to the higher education institution, but HICI will not be having any such financial disbursement power, which is to be granted to the HICI. It is not there at all. Further, the academic powers, it is a, in UGC it was mandated to promote and coordinate the university education and determine and maintain the standards of teaching for examination and research. So it will also, HICI will also do the same thing. It will also establish the standards and will grant the authorization for the higher education institutions for commencing also and to continue the operations. So same is the case with the this I think is the almost the same in case of UGC and HICI both. Most important thing over here, HICI will not be having any power to inspect. So UGC, because it is a traditionally going on body, so UGC actually conducts a regular inspection to monitor the financial needs and also to ensure the academic standards, whereas HICI will prescribe the norms. Now what will happen is that, now again a question is how it will establish a control. So it will not conduct any inspection, but with the help of the reports which it will be asking from the higher education institution, it will ensure whether the higher education institution is on the standard or on the regulation or not. Further, the action, so the affiliation of the higher education institutions and the grant of the universities is terminated if something is violated. HICI is having a power ahead of it. It can put the management in the jail also for 3 years for any non-compliance or negligence of not making up to the standard. Now see, this is one of the very, very important thing, because the government has opened its gates for the foreign institution to get established in India too, and Indian institution itself, because now government has realized, I think, that playing with the education of anyone is, I think, playing with the nation. So this is a rigorous step which has been taken. Previously UGC was not having this power, but in HICI it is there. Further, the composition is almost similar, you can say, but here the UGC was in UGC the appointment was done, means more academicians were involved. In HICI more bureaucracy will be involved. So there is a difference in this particular composition also. Further, the dispute always center has prevailed, so here also center will prevail. And if we see about the regular staff, so both will be having a regular staff and both will be doing the things. The difference is that HICI will be doing it in fully digital mode, and the training of the existing UGC staff, which will be afterwards to be absorbed by HICI, is to be done. So if we talk about the implementation, then we see that a multidisciplinary approach is required. So presently, at present, there is a restriction because we have the institutions. If we do not talk about the institution of importance like IIMs and IITs, those upcoming institutions are still single disciplinary. So when they have to go with the multidisciplinary option, the appointment of faculty, you can say the provision of the services, or you can say the provision of the facilities to the students will be there, and that can be one of the challenge. So here this can be seen as an opportunity and challenge both by the higher education institutions. Now here making your passion your profession will be implemented. So those who were looking forward for doing something and they were not able to do something because there was restriction of taking the subjects, they will be able to do this with the help of this. And this actually provides a very good platform for the private institutions to establish a platform for providing the passionate subjects also along with the other things to the students, so that they can exercise their own things along with their profession. Now further, there is a need of creating of in-house and domestic placements, or you can say job or opportunities, etc., for the students who will be generated as an outcome of this NEP. So the outcome has to be consumed first in-house, and then only we can think of something else. So not only the jobs and placements, we have to go with certain good startups also, and some entrepreneurship opportunities also have to be provided. So the government has to form an integrated program in order to promote the entrepreneurship along with the promoting of this new education policy. Now, one most important thing, particularly which is being seen these days, is a human capital flight from India, and especially in the higher education industry, I will say, because it has become an industry. Most of the good teachers and professors, if we see the websites of the other very good institutions like Cambridge University, University of Michigan, Western Michigan University, we will find more of the Indians over there. So why we are not able to retain a good faculty in the country? That is again to be checked. And the establishment of very high respect for the professors, for the teachers of the India is again to be re-established in the country. Then only we will be able to actually implement this. Further, the communication skill, irrespective of the languages and cultures, are to be developed. Now, it is well said that means the body gestures and the you can say the non-verbal communication actually communicates more than the verbal communication. But provided that non-verbal communication be a part of a curriculum, or you can say it must be known to others. So this is again one opportunity which has to be taken up so that our students can develop themselves. Further, there are no guidelines about the professional courses like company secretaries, chartered accountants. So these type of courses are still not being touched in this new education policy, though the medical council has been this medical courses and law courses have been taken out of this hickey, and there will be separate councils for it that has already been done. But what about these professional courses itself, those who are passed by the act, and how they will be running? It's again this policy is silent. And equal respect to all profession and vocation have to be established. And again, I will emphasize on the top leadership of the higher education institutions that is required to be checked, and then only we can establish a well culture in the university, in the college, and thereby in the country, in the society. So thank you for providing me this opportunity. And yeah, I will, if there is any question, we can discuss that.
Thank you, sir, for your enriching knowledge on NEP implementation in private institutions. Now the floor is open for questions.
Yes. Any question from anyone?
Good evening, sir.
Yeah, very good evening. Who is this?
I am myself Bobby from St. Joseph's College, Cuddalore, Tamil Nadu.
Okay, Bobby ji, please tell me.
I understood NEP, that means NEP, that is a centralized educational system. That means one syllabus and the same subject in all over India. And also it is the same, it is a curriculum plus job-oriented system.
Yeah.
My question is, what about the fee structure is same in everywhere in India? First question. Then
Yes.
second question, NEP more flexible. The structure is going to, that structure is going to be implemented. Is there seriousness in academic level? Because everybody is worried about this flexibility.
Yeah, this new education policy has come up with one recommendation that there will be no capping on the private institution to keep their fees. So the fee structure will definitely vary throughout the country. Now here one most important thing is that why it should, and rather I would like to say that this is also good and feasible also. Why? Because the private institutions, they have their limited resources in order to take the fee also, right? So at that time it should be allowed. Now it will, because as it will be an open market system. Now if you see the trend of the government, the present government, is that it is actually moving towards the privatization, and it is actually providing the opportunities to the country to grow to some extent, right? So in education also, it has been there that there has been diversity in the pieces previously too. and presently too it is there. Now, even even if you see the fee of the government institutions like IIM and IITs, the fee is extremely very high. So I have heard last about the IIM Ahmedabad fee is about 16 lakhs, 16 lakhs to just to have an MBA over there. Besides, you have all the means merits of the country, means 99%. If you are having 95 to 99% 100% per percentile of CAT score, then only you get admission over there. But still, the fee is very high. Now, at the same time, you are talking about the seriousness. For sure, it will totally be dependent upon a person who wants to do certain things. So, for example, it hardly matters whether a person is graduating from where. It is actually attitude of a person which actually makes him groom and makes him learn the things. That's what is my answer to it. Yeah.
Thank you,
So,
sir.
Bobby, have I answered you?
Yeah, thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Yeah, anyone, anything else? I would like to, if somebody else wants to ask something, would like to answer that too. Parvinder sir, you want to ask something? Okay, Babaji, I think no questions from anyone.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, participants. Gratitude is a powerful catalyst for happiness. It's the spark that lights a fire of joy in your soul. Amy Collett. Now I request Dr. R. Kumar, Head of the Department Computer Science, PG, to propose the word of thanks.
Good evening to all. The purpose of education is to make good human being with skill and expertise. Changes in education policy is a major way to provide the nation better students, professionals, and better human being. Dr. Abdul Kalam. It gives a immense pleasure to deliver the vote of thanks for the two-day national level conference on implementation of national education policy conducted by School of Management and Department of Computer Science PG in collaboration with AICT Delhi. First of all, I express my sincere thanks to the keynote speakers of the day, Dr. Yunus Mullah, the Chief Executive Officer, International Business Center, Kolkata, and to Dr. Manvinder Singh, Manipal University, Jaipur. Thank you very much, sir. On behalf of everyone present here, we express our sincere thanks to you for spending your valuable time and giving a lot of insight about NEP. Thank you very much, sir. And I extend my sincere thanks to Reverend Father Augustine George, the principal of our college, for his constant support and encouragement. Thank you, Father, in his absence here. I thank the entire management team for the support and help for conduct this conference. Thank you, dear fathers. I extend my sincere thanks to Professor Edward, the Dean of School of Management, and also is the Director of IQC for his constant support and encouragement to conduct this conference. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, sir. And also, I extend my sincere thanks to the keynote speakers of yesterday, Dr. N. Panjaratnam, the teacher, the Vice Chancellor, Tamil Nadu Teachers Education University, Tamil Nadu, who have inaugurated this conference yesterday, and to Dr. M. Selvalashmi, the principal, Tyagaraja School of Management. Thanks to them in their absence here. I would like to thank Dr. Baby, the coordinator as well as head of the Department of School of Management for his support, as well as helping us to conduct this conference. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, sir. I extend my warm thanks to Dr. Nana Balakumar for his support, and as well as being a convener for this conference and also keynote speaker of this conference. Thank you very much, sir. And your insight is a good help for the students as well as for all the faculty members and for all the education people in this country. And I express my sincere thanks to all the participants of this conference from AICTE and all over India. And also a special thanks to AICTE for collaborating with us as well as supporting us to conduct this conference. Thank you all the participants and all the members from the AICTE. I express my sincere thanks to all the faculty members of School of Management as well as School of Computer Science, MCA department, and all the faculty members of the college to be part of this conference. And I also wish to thank all the participants, student participants from our college and outside the college for being a part of this conference and actively participating in this conference. Okay. So special thanks to the student coordinators who have done the MC yesterday and today, as well as for Srija ma'am for coordinating, for moderating the sessions background process he has done. Thank you all. And also a special thanks to the system admins, Amir as well as Ajit sir for helping us to technical support to conduct this conference. So once again, I thank each and everyone to be a part of this conference. On behalf of Christie Jayanti College, once again, I thank each and everyone. Thank you, sir. I remain.
We thank you as well, sir. Participants, kindly note, the link for the feedback form is being added on to the Zoom chat. Kindly use that in order to give your generous feedbacks. And also, if somebody is facing difficulty, you can also use the same link in your NEP WhatsApp group.
Yeah, please see that it is properly filled in order to be eligible for the certificate to be issued. Yeah, Jimmy, you can also ask the participants to switch on their video so that we can have a group photo.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I request the participants to kindly switch on your videos for a group photo. Thank you everyone. We, the family of Christo Jayanti College, hope that you all had a wonderful 2 days of learning experience here. Along with this, we wish and pray for each one of you for your future success. Thank you once again and wishing you all a happy Holi. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Jibin.
Thank you, sir.
Welcome, sir. Welcome, sir.
Yeah. Once again, from our end here in Christie Jayanti College, we express our deep sense of gratitude for the good response from all the participants across the country, and I hope you enjoyed the sessions. Your feedback is valuable to us for organizing programs, with greater perfection in future. Please do, fill in the feedback and send it to us. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Kumar sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, Shija ma'am, probably you can end the meeting.